And welcome to Regenerative Revolution. We're on episode 9, and we're on session 3, I believe, or 4. We're on session 4 with Isaiah Urth, and he's working on his nonprofit UrthKynd, which is doing some urban gardening in Los Angeles. He also has some projects in Mississippi and Uganda and Oregon, right? Those are the other places you're connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working on Isaiah's business model for this organization that he's just getting going. And what I'm going to do is ask him questions. I'm a regenerative business consultant, and we're going through this regenerative enterprise design workbook. And I'm going to ask him the questions and take notes, and you get to watch me take notes. You can kind of look over my shoulder at the questions I'm asking and the notes that I'm taking. And then this is a live stream. We're on Twitch right now. So if we get some people in the audience, which we don't have yet, we just started this, 9 episodes ago. So we're still building up an audience. But if anybody does come in, then they can be involved in the conversation. There's a chat room. You can just shoot questions and comments at me. There's also a little question app under the video where you can ask questions that I could get to later. We really hope to make this a conversation where, we have the community members here with us and they can be giving input on how this organization should function, because it really is a community organization, and all the organizations that I work with on this channel are, community based in some ways. There would be other people that would want to be involved with it. So please join us live on Twitch. The calendar is on my website at regenerativedynamics.com, also on twitch.tv/regenrevolution. I also have a Patreon page, and that's all linked here below the video. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's just start with a check-in. Isaiah, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. A beautiful day. It's been a very hot weekend here in Los Angeles, so giving some extra care to the garden, it feels amazing, get a hand in the soil, and excited to be here. And how are you?
Awesome. Thanks. I'm really good. I just had a session with my own business coach, and we were talking about marketing, marketing this show. So I got some more clarity on what I need to do to get more people to join us here. So I'll be starting on that soon. And I also helped her because we're coaching each other, and she wants to start her own company. So she's actually going to be joining me here on the show. So if you're interested in watching that, we'll be broadcasting her episodes coming up, and she's going to be building kind of a coaching business. It's helping business coaches, and it's a lot of things. I don't want to go into
Awesome.
it, but yeah, it'll probably be some sort of a worker collaborative. All right, regenerative enterprise design. We have gone through an initial conversation. We got some info from you, and then we talked about your purpose and vision, and then we talked about your value proposition. And today we're talking about your market and delivery. So we're talking about who is your market, how are you going to market to them, and then once you get them engaged, how are you going to deliver your products to them to kind of fulfill those promises that you made in your marketing. So we'll start with the first question, which is about your customer segments. We talk about that's just different types of customers, or in this case, they might be more like participants or members of your community that are coming out and helping with the gardens. Or coming to get food. You might have like some sort of a food bank we talked about. You would be collecting food from various sources around your community and distributing it. So you've got those people who are just coming to get food, and then you've got people who are volunteering for the organization, both just showing up to garden randomly as well as like being more involved and having roles in the organization. And these are all people that you need to kind of market to bring them in. And then you also have like sponsors and other organizations that you're working with that you'd also need to market to get them involved. So you have all these people. You also have various locations that you're working in. So if we get clearer on who these customer segments are, then we can gather some information that might help us to market to them. So do any of these customer segments have restraints, like they are living within a certain area, they are a certain age or income bracket, or they have abilities that they can bring, or affiliations. Like, those are some of the categories. Like, what are the categories of people that you're marketing to?
So I think we were targeting, like, I don't know, I think in the past I said 3 mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about all of kind of Los Angeles, which that's a huge piece to, you know, to focus on. So trying to break it down, I guess, within a 3 mile radius of each urban farm or community garden.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, who are the customer
What
base?
are the demographics, basically, the constraints of these groups that would define who they are?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? What do you mean by constraints?
Like, well, I mean, where they live is a good one. I mean, like, if you're going to do a food pantry, would that be under a certain income bracket or belonging to a certain, like, income class category?
I would.
Not that, like, you would have rules of who you can serve, but who are you marketing to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a good mix. I mean, within just 3 miles, we have Culver City,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have kind of like unincorporated area, kind of going through the Inglewood area, and then down into LA, South LA, just within that sort of radius. So it's really a wide range. I feel like good healthy food really will appeal to everyone of every bracket,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's grown consciously and it's affordable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, something that's grown organic, or, I guess you can't say organic, but with organic or regenerative practices. Yeah, and affordable. I see it just being something for everyone. But I'd like to prioritize people who in communities who don't really, have the access.
Right. So, I mean, so if you had, $100 that you were going to spend on marketing, would you spend it marketing to the people who already have money, or would you spend it marketing to low income people?
Mm.
Or maybe depending on what you're doing. So, you
Yeah,
have the food pantry, and then you also have things you need volunteers for. Maybe you
yeah.
would do a marketing campaign for the food pantry and you'd be targeting low income people. And you would also do a marketing campaign for volunteers, and maybe you would target people who are interested in healthy food already. But those are both constraints, so I'm trying to get a list
Mm-hmm.
of these.
Um, yeah, ideally, it's just a big, it's a mix, and then everyone's kind of funneled by their interests or by their um, capabilities
Yeah.
or by their needs,
Mm-hmm.
according to that.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I like the idea of a food pantry providing access to those who are most in need. Um, so yeah, for the food pantry, I definitely, market towards, for example, uh, I'm not sure how the marketing would look for that. I mean, really, what I've seen other organizations do, like in the area and throughout LA, is literally just post up the digital flyers and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and even do giveaways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I, I love it when farms do that. When they pack up the bags um, and they're for donating to people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, maybe there's different. Um, maybe there are different tiers somehow. I'm still kind of struggling to um, realize, how it's going to be most profitable. And maybe it's out of the products that are made from the food that's grown and not just the food itself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems, let me just scroll up for a second because we were trying to get clear on your value proposition last time, and it's possible we didn't get clear enough. Let's see. Let's see. You had classes that you were wanting to give by donation, the processed food, consultations, and after we ended last time, I remember you and me checking in about whether that would be a part of this nonprofit or you might do that separately as your own business. Online content about food and health care and that sort of thing. You would be recruiting volunteers for creating that online content. You would have a regenerative health course. You would be getting sponsorships. You would have the volunteer opportunities for gardening. And then volunteer opportunities addressing issues of food insecurity and poverty. Okay, we were talking about how you would market that, I guess. Yeah. I feel like we're still a little too fuzzy on what exactly it is that you're offering. Maybe we need to narrow this down to like one or two things that you're going to offer right now so we can get more specific on this conversation. So of these things, classes, I mean, you don't have food right now, so you don't have processed food to sell right now. So it'd be pointless to be marketing that. And you've got online content and then recruiting volunteers. So which of those things are you going to be doing in the next few months? Or maybe
Definitely
all of them, but
yeah, definitely the online content, focusing on content, web, generating content and video that can be edited into smaller, a smaller segment, maybe even an intro video, for example, that articulates, in 10 seconds, 20 seconds, like what the issues are and how we plan to address them. So, and definitely, volunteers, very strong.
Okay, so right now you need to recruit volunteers. Are you recruiting volunteers to help you create that online content? Is that a priority?
Yes, yeah, definitely for the web. For the web stuff.
And then what about helping in the garden? Do you need volunteers quickly, soon for that?
More so when it's more established.
Okay.
Because it's just a lot of, the labor is so much right now that I need to actually probably get like a tractor or something to help with the moving of everything, lots of soil and stuff.
Okay, so you do need volunteers though for a tractor.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah. I mean, it's I've called around and I've tried to, kind of, hey, can you take payments? Can we barter a little something here? But it's going to be pretty pricey.
Okay. So you do need volunteers to help with the gardening ASAP. You just need volunteers specifically for helping to haul stuff. Is there anything else you need help with
Yeah,
immediately?
it's just right now. It would just be so labor intensive that I don't think human power it's a lot. So once it's more established, like in the coming couple of months, it's going to cost probably 600 or so just to have somebody come out with the tool that scoops it all up and moves it. You only need to move it maybe like 100 feet. Then the human work will begin, because then it'll actually be in a location where we can put it in wheelbarrows and start moving it, putting it in the pots.
So do you need donations to make that happen? What do you need to make that happen?
Donations would be the most impactful thing for now.
Okay, so you need to raise some money. So you need donors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so online content, volunteers for creating online content, and donations. Okay. Are you planning on doing any classes soon? I mean, with COVID, probably not in person, right?
Yeah, probably not in person. I mean, the extent of the in-person meetings will probably just be to, for example, everyone pick up seeds or everyone pick up free plants,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some plant pots, things like that have been donated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, mostly all online for any classes. But yeah, I'm working on something actually with a few other groups right now. Just spinning the wheels, trying to figure out how we're going to come together on a collaborative like community course here in LA. So
Okay. Or did I have that on there? Okay. Yeah, that's not really a product working with people on that level. Okay. So it looks like you got 3 things then. Volunteers for online content, creating online content, or the online content once it's created, and then gathering donations. I mean, it seems like you really need at least one volunteer to help you create online content, unless there's some you could just create on your own right now. Would you get started first and then get volunteers?
yeah, what I'm doing right now is just laying sort of the framework for everything. A basic website, basic logo, contact form,
Mm-hmm.
um, a funnel with different check boxes so people can subscribe to specific mailing lists, and I kind of know how to categorize as contacts. Um, but yeah, just something that can be scaled, ideally with that will kind of start bringing in the volunteers, and then it can be scaled to 2.0, 3.0, like that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like getting people on a mailing list would be step one in recruiting volunteers for the gardening, and that could start now, even if you don't have things for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually is something I'm going to put on the list, because yeah, just building your mailing list, that is, recruiting volunteers for the gardening. You could just say we're going to start this in however many weeks or months or whatever. Just letting people know that you don't have anything for them to do at the moment, but getting them on the mailing list anyway, that needs to be done. Okay. And do you have any online content right now that you can drive people to?
This is probably the biggest piece of online content right now, like what we're doing.
Okay,
uh,
that's fine. I would be
Facebook.
more than happy if you would drive some
Go that
traffic
way. Go
here.
that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to get things going.
I'd be
Okay.
happy to. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just ignore everything else. Here, I didn't write down the food pantry I did. Did I? Wait, why can't I? Oh, I'm using the wrong thing. Sorry. So let's ignore the food pantry idea for now, because that's going to come later. And let's just talk about recruiting volunteers by signing people up on your mailing list, both for gardening and for helping you create online content, driving people to online content starting with this, but as soon as you have something else, driving to that, and then also some method to get donations, so driving people to a donation, whether you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign. Do you have any idea what platform you might use to do fundraising?
I'd like to build up to crowdfunding. That really appeals to me, and any other kind of like social funding resources that are out there, community funding. Um, Another thing that I'm working on is just working to get the nonprofit ready to accept grants, because there's a lot that I guess is involved in terms of having board members and having you know bios of everyone, and there's a lot that goes into the grant process.
Sure. Right.
So
Well, grants isn't marketing, so we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about
oh,
things that you
sorry,
need to
I thought
market.
we meant
Uh,
oh,
so are you going to have a crowd? Because I mean, part of what I want to do with the show is help you drive people to your crowdfunding campaign. So if you had a crowdfunding campaign right now, I could be saying throughout this whole episode, go to blah 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 to donate to Isaiah's crowdfunding campaign.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, is there something that you could do to set that up? I mean, it's really easy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could set up a basic one. I guess I always
Yeah.
envision, when we get to that, I always envision the crowdfunding as a stage that you need to get to because, you know, well, I have the content because we're already doing the website. So I have the content that articulates what exactly we would be raising money for. Um, However, a lot of the nice, successful crowdfunds I've seen have these beautiful videos and
Hmm.
have a really, nice website established a lot of times.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where I get hung up is,
Hmm.
well, we don't have the nice intro video that really
Hmm.
articulates with the drone footage and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah. Well, you need $600. So you
Right.
could do
That's
that
a
by
good
making a
part.
Facebook post saying, send money to my PayPal account.
Right. 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 Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't
On a
need any
smaller
of that.
scale.
You don't
Yeah.
even need a page. You need a PayPal account.
Mhm,
I mean, you could put up a page though. I mean, you can put up an Indiegogo page for a $600,
mhm,
goal, or a Facebook. If you had a nonprofit sponsor organization that you were working with, then you could
mhm,
use them.
mhm. That is exactly, yeah, working on the 501c3 within the next, couple of weeks. That's on the agenda. And fiscal sponsorship. I've applied for a couple of them. They were very lengthy applications that asked for the whole plan
Hmm.
and everything. And I felt really good about it. I had all of the right answers, I felt, and then it didn't come to fruition. So I'm back to the drawing board with that. But the fiscal sponsorship is a really huge piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Who did you apply for that?
Um, there was one organization called Save Our Planet, and the I like them because the goals and the core values and things were really in alignment. Um, but really big organization, they get lots of applicants
Hmm.
every year. Um, and then the other one, it escapes me.
Mm-hmm.
But I was told to also check out Community Coalition
Hmm.
here in LA,
Hmm.
that who I guess they sponsor a lot of nonprofits. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that
it continues.
a food pantry organization, something like that.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if any of the like permaculture groups in your area have a 501 or are connected to one.
Hmm.
If you had somebody working with you who was a part of one of those organizations, it might be easy. Sierra Club, I mean, Boy Scouts, like any nonprofit, if you could just be like, hey, we're making a community garden here. You want to be part of it? Like
Hmm.
they could sponsor you to get $600, and you don't even need that to get $600. You just like literally need to ask your friends for
Hmm.
$600.
Yeah,
Make a
totally.
GoFundMe. Like it doesn't have to be the big hubbaloo to like just get the money you need to get started.
Hmm.
So okay. So, I mean, for now, that's a constraint. Initial fundraising, might be if you don't have this big organization or anything, it might just be restricted to people and
Yeah.
like your own social network.
Hmm.
Uh, Yeah, so as far as, okay, so for the gardening volunteers, they need to live within a 3-mile radius. For the fundraising, it's people in your social network who might not necessarily need to live there. They might just know you and be willing to give you 20 bucks, you know?
Hmm.
Um, what about for the video volunteers, people helping with the online content? I'll just put online content.
Hmm.
I mean, they would need to have some skills in that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one consideration is, I'd love someone who is really skilled in the industry, who has, a great track record with helping organizations. One person or two people like that to run a slightly bigger team of people who are maybe in school or they're in college, they want to do an internship, they want to build their
Mhm.
brand or their resume or their portfolio, um, working with a good cause. That's kind of, and everything I do, I really want to help other people, and especially when I'm getting help from them. So it just really appeals to me, like, hey, if you have a skill, if you have a passion that you want to, put towards something really positive and build that brand or that resume, come on in and join us, and yeah. So I'm thinking, maybe contact Art Institute,
Mhm.
um, the different colleges with, art and digital media and programming and all these cool sort of verticals that we actually need people in. Um, and then sort of get like this collaborative digital group together to start accomplishing these things, and then give everyone the credits, link to
Mhm.
their pages, cross promote. So it becomes like a community. And my ultimate vision is, hey, maybe there's some people who just jump in and out whenever they can, whenever they want to contribute.
Mhm.
But maybe there's some that actually remain, sticky with the organization. And, when we have that ability to hire people part-time, full-time,
Mhm.
start compensating, fairly for their efforts, get more of a involved, group.
Yeah. Yeah. But you need to start finding the initial people who are going to help you make content right now. So that would be people who have skills in creating videos, websites, graphic design, maybe social media
Oh yeah,
marketing. Yeah.
all that stuff. It just, yeah, it's such a huge umbrella, like spectrum of skills.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're specific and you can actually target those people marketing
Hmm.
wise.
Hmm. I wish I could just go learn it all,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm fascinated by it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And I feel like there was one other thing. Hold on. It was the online content. Oh, and then once you create that online content, yeah, okay. So then once you create that online content, who are you going to be marketing that to?
Um, I would I would be very interested in doing, YouTube, uh, Patreon type things that are marketed to the areas where we're getting involved in, where we're, starting up projects and regional chapters and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like was specifically within that 3 mile radius or a little bit broader than that? Like LA in general or
Yeah, like LA in general. Um, if it's somewhere more rural, like Oregon, it'd be more like 100 mile
yeah,
radius.
okay.
But
Okay. Cool. Uh, where the projects are happening. Okay, cool, cool. But yeah, that would kind of be everybody within that area, or would you want to specifically target people of a certain age group or anything like that?
mm, I wouldn't say it's any specific. Not really. I mean, yeah, I guess it would just depend on the project. If we're coming up on a harvest and we're selling and donating lots of vegetables, then probably like whatever demographic, in terms of the age and stuff, that's kind of attracts the people who are buying the groceries or providing the groceries for their households and
Hmm.
things like that. I mean, really, I guess it's really just everybody.
Okay, okay.
Um,
It's just those areas that you're targeting. Okay. Okay, cool. So we have some target markets. We have some demographics of who you're marketing to for the various things. Cool. Okay, so if somebody out there were going to find your online content or find your website or your fundraising campaign because they specifically were looking for something like that, what would they be searching for? What are like the keywords that they would be typing into Google that would bring them to you?
um, just off the top of my head, I would say like affordable food, um, maybe food justice. I mean, it is kind of still, one of the many buzzwords that encompass, what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, Food access, uh, eat healthier, um, you know, organic food. I mean, I want to connect with anyone who's just conscious about how they eat or curious about, you know, wellness or eating differently,
Mm-hmm.
eating better. Um, yeah, maybe people are searching for juice bars or salad bars, things like that. Um, yeah.
Okay. I also put down cheap food because I think if somebody was actually typing into Google, I don't know if they would use the word affordable. I mean,
Mm,
maybe like I'm searching for affordable food. Like
mhm,
I don't know. I can't imagine myself typing that in.
mm.
Um,
Well, affordable organic food, maybe.
ah.
Yeah, because that's kind of where we get into the social justice issue is, organic food. It seems like the healthier it is tends to
Mm-hmm.
be overpriced or out of reach, and
Mm-hmm.
also just in the community that I'm in now. I mean, there's I guess there's a grocery store. There are a couple of grocery stores now, not too far away. However, um, the selection, with produce, they're not like those same chains in zip codes that have demographics of, more income,
Mm-hmm.
for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird to see like even the quality of produce at Ralph's and Vaughn's is different, in LA and South Central LA, than, for example, West LA
Mm-hmm.
or,
Mm-hmm.
of course, Beverly Hills or
Mm-hmm.
so. Yeah, I mean, I just I'd love to see just really good quality, beautiful food available for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I am noticing Twitch says we have one viewer. Hello, viewer. I just want to give them
hey.
a shout out and offer them the opportunity to, shoot things in the chat room if you have ideas for this list we're coming up with. Go ahead. Okay. I mean, I think if somebody were looking to help you volunteer wise, they might be searching for like urban gardening projects
Yeah.
or permaculture or regenerative gardening or farming, something like that. So, okay. Yeah, that might be a pretty good list. Okay. So, for both of these lists, which I'm gonna give you, you have access to this document. Um, I would like you to do some market research to figure out some numbers on these things. So you can go on like Google Analytics, and
Mhm.
I could help you if you
Oh, thank you.
need help, but to like find out how many people search for these key terms within a month. Like you can just type in, you know, cheap produce, and it will tell you how many people type that into Google in the last month.
Mhm.
In LA.
Mhm.
I mean, I think you might even be able to get it down to that 3 mile radius. Like, you can do that. You can, just do a Google search for, population of LA. I don't know if you can like draw, if there's somewhere you can draw on a map and it'll tell you how many people live in that area. I'm not sure where you could go to find that. I just have to do some Googling to find, the best way to look these things up. But I've done it before, just to get an idea of how many people there are, in these demographics, because that will help you, if there are, you know, 30,000 people that you're marketing to. And then if you try something, like let's say you put out an ad that's targeting those people and you get, 300 people to open it, that you got, what would that let you, like 1% or whatever, or 0.1% of the population you successfully targeted, it's just good to have those numbers to know like where you're starting from. or what your goals are. And you could even come up with some goals like, I want to engage 10% of the population in this 3-mile radius. And you would actually know how many people that was. So you would know when you got there, right? Numbers are good. I like numbers. I mean, not everybody's a number person, so you don't have to do as much as I might, but however much you can do, that's kind of a homework that I would have for you. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This would be to design an experiment that would test if what you're offering is really what these people are looking for. So what's something that you could do that would be low cost? And I already said, like, making a post on Facebook asking people to give you money, like any kind of a really, really easy, low cost thing that you could do initially to kind of dip your toe in the water to find out if all of these people in this area or network are actually interested in what you have to offer. Or not just interested in it, but they actually will buy it. They will do something. They will sign up for your mailing list. They're not just going to say, oh, that sounds nice. They're actually going to do something about it.
Yeah. I think it's, there's still a lot of foot traffic with, certain shops and, restaurants, stores and things like that. I like the idea of kind of going old school and doing some flyers or some little cards, but having just the simple link that they can scan or that people can just quickly go to, that's web, mobile and computer friendly, and then it just kind of like a link, those bio links that you see on Instagram. They're just so easy. There's just a menu of, I'd like to volunteer. What would you like to volunteer for? Click that email address. Okay, we'll be in touch. Or, just gives them clear, actionable items that funnels into, the contact. Yeah.
Okay, so flyers with a link and QR code that would take people to a sign up page for various kinds of volunteering. So you're saying?
Yeah. Or even, and then of course doing the digital posts to promote that. Another thing that I was thinking of, because we still have seeds from the seed drive that we were doing, pretty fair amount. And so I'd like to, one thing I was thinking of is getting like a nice little seed packets or something, or maybe just getting stickers and putting them on. Stickers can be pretty cheap with the logo or the Instagram name, and just putting those out on a community boards and stuff, and people can take the seeds, like a packet of seeds, go to our Instagram to see what these seeds are, or these are such and such seeds. Check out our Instagram for more, or for information. Let's grow together, and it was just kind of some ideas I was toying with.
Okay, so that's kind of combined with the flyer idea. So flyers or seed packets with that same link, QR code, and then if it's seeds, then it could also have information about the seeds and gardening. Maybe some of your initial online content, which could just be really low cost. What we're doing right now, you could record yourself talking about it, or you could just write a blog post with pictures. You could have some instructional stuff about how to plant those seeds. Possibly.
And of course, like, well, why are we doing this? Why is it important to get everyone growing? At least, everyone interested in, a minimal amount, or as much food as they want, why is it a pivotal time to come together on that cause?
Okay. Yeah. With the why, something like that. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, this is good. And getting people to sign up for volunteering and whatnot. You could also have a link to some fundraising something if you had that set up.
Yeah, I'll definitely get that set up. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. So, okay, the next question is talking about your competitors, although you probably don't see them as competitors. Your other organizations in your field that are doing similar work.
Mhm.
And what do you know about them? Who are they, especially locally? And how are you different from what they're doing?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I've done minimal research so far on uh, organizations, um, aside from just the ones that I've kind of been involved with, and um, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of organizations, big ones that are fighting for food justice just in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and they're all organizations that are just I look up to,
Mm-hmm.
that I'd love to work with. Like I've got them. I brought up my little list here. Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
uh, LA Food. Did you want the names?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so I have like a list of ones that
Okay.
I really respect and I really like.
Cool.
There's Seeds of Hope. There's the LA Food Policy Council.
Mm-hmm.
There's LA Compost,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got this really cool thing where they go into communities and they implement composting, community composting hubs.
Mm-hmm.
There's one called Feast. I can't remember what it stands for. Food Finders, the Garden School Foundation, Social Justice Learning Institute. Um, then, uh, yeah, and then there's just so many others that are doing, just amazing work all throughout the country. There's, of course, Soul Fire Farm. Um, yeah, I had some more written down too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, need to find it. I think what I ended up doing was having three different notes.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Cool. While you look that up, I have to step away for just 1 second. I'll be right back.
okay, got him here.
So sorry about that, everyone. Okay.
No
So, did you
worries.
find some more?
Yeah. So these are more like national or even international.
Mm-hmm.
But there's Agricultural Justice Project, um, Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, Australia Food Sovereignty Alliance. I even have the Bangladesh Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, Bread for the City. I mean, there's so many,
Okay.
literally.
Well, I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure.
Brooklyn Movement Center.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it to the ones that are maybe more local and more like your competitors. And like that. If somebody had $100 to donate, why should they donate it to you and not them? Is the
Mm,
question.
mm.
So yeah. What sets you apart? How is what you're doing different from them? Why aren't you just working with them? Like, why are you doing your own thing?
Um, I think, well, one of the differences is that UrthKynd is more focused on being hyper local than I think being a national or international or even statewide. I mean, that is sort of the ultimate goal. That would be amazing. But to not bite off more than I can chew, and to really get things going and get, a few established proofs of concept that can snowball into bigger things. Focusing on being hyper local, that impact is, I think, one of the things that kind of sets this apart. Also, just I think the desire to really be streamlined and to not have a ton of overhead, to not, I'm not really looking at office space, or, I'm really streamlined and just work from a laptop wherever I am. And I mean, other than investing in tools and things like that, the biggest investments really is just getting the soil and getting the soil into the right place. And of course we have, drip irrigation and, amendments and things like that. But really, it's just, I think it's a lot more cost effective to work with a smaller hyper local organization that's, streamlined. It doesn't have a ton of administrative costs because the money goes directly into what it's supposed to go for, which is very, actionable outcome.
I mean, what about with what you're doing, what you're offering?
I don't see a lot of, honestly, I don't see a lot of difference. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that are growing food for the purpose of just making it more accessible and providing education. I don't see in a lot of the content that I've read, on many different sites, like a lot of people, we understand like the relationship between food and health, but it's not really a core pillar that's being driven to their audiences. How critically important it is to focus on regenerative agriculture for the earth, but also regenerative culture for our bodies, and cultivating our cell health and our regenerative cells and detoxification. So that's another thing that I really want to drive in all of our education and everything that UrthKynd is, does, is just that critical importance between the food, the soil, the health, the earth, and and community.
Okay, so you're focusing on driving the message that regenerative agriculture and health is of critical importance to what the bigger issues of like food sovereignty and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it to me, really, it all comes down to, are you repairing your cells, or are you regenerating your cells? Are we repairing the earth? Are we regenerating it, or are we degenerating it? And that's, I guess when you look at it in that lens, it's, we're really pushing regenerative lifestyle, regenerative practices as a human right, and not something that's like specific to, well, you got to live in the country and you got to make this amount of money, and there has to be a way for everyone to have that, instead of it being a privilege.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm feeling like something's a little missing, and I don't know, I kind of felt it some before, but I feel like this is just kind of really pointing it out. Like, yeah, I'm just curious of why you are starting your own nonprofit rather than just joining with an existing nonprofit. Is this because you really see a need for something different, or is it just because you want to be in charge?
No, I mean, I it's definitely because it's a very personal thing for me. Like, UrthKynd started as, a small homestead that kind of turned into a small farm that was providing, for some community members and some restaurants and, for my family and stuff. Um, and yeah, I guess just seeing the power of food, um, even on a small scale, on a small farm, to connect people, to give people hope.
Mhm.
Like, I still get messages from people who are like, you know, thank you for teaching me this. Like, my body is getting better. I don't feel sick anymore. I'm losing weight. I'm feeling stronger. I have energy. Like, thank you, and yeah, I mean, going through my own like health trials and things like that, and discovering holistic methods and natural, healthcare. Getting fired for a doctor because I wouldn't take pharmaceuticals and I wanted to find a natural way. All of these things are deeply personal for me, and yeah, I just feel like I want to bring that sort of that um, that knowledge and that information to other people.
Ah, okay, cool. I want to pause and say hello to our second viewer by request only. Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining us. So we're talking about Isaiah's uh, competitors in the marketplace, and I'm still not buying it though, Isaiah. And I'm gonna become the consultant with the stick. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you starting a nonprofit? Because you're starting a company. Like, you're going to be a CEO. Like, you're going to have to do a bunch of office work and paperwork. Like, you're setting yourself up for a bunch of paperwork
Mm-hmm.
and marketing and a bunch of business stuff. And that's going to be the majority of what you're doing if you start your own nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to have time to garden. You're not going to have time to teach. You're going to be running a nonprofit. And is that really what you want to do? Or would it be better if you just got a fiscal sponsorship and just did some projects?
I like the idea of both. I like the idea of getting the sponsorship and doing the projects while working towards the full-fledged nonprofit. Because UrthKynd, I think I first registered that whole business and did the DBA and the sole prop and stuff. I think that was back in 2015 or so. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
2015, 2016. And yeah, I mean, it was for me, I felt like it was rooted in social justice. Like, a lot of the business, and the profitability sort of aspect um, was well, I'll say it like this, like the giving of things to other people really took precedence over the business aspect of making money. And I
Mm-hmm.
always thought like it would be amazing to have a farm that's also a nonprofit in nature. It's like rooted in social justice. And I really felt like just, the whole opportunity that I had in working for the employer I was working for to, move out of LA and move to Oregon and then end up, landing on a farm, which was just a series of events that I never even imagined. I never even thought about owning a farm. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just the way that it all happened, like that was all really due to luck and to blessing. And because normally, if you're in LA, you're born and raised here, you have, family here, it's it's weird. It just doesn't really happen that people leave and they end up on a farm and stuff. Um, but it was an opportunity, and I felt like that's something that should be afforded to everyone, And I would always think like, why are there people who can't afford good food, and why don't the food pantries have
Yeah.
nutrient
Yeah.
dense or organic food? Why, you
Okay.
know?
Isaiah,
So
I'm gonna stop you because you're going on the vision rant, and I find that it's usually a tactic to change the subject. Why are you trying to start an organization that's going to take up all your time doing paperwork when it sounds like you really just want to like help people through gardening? Like why? What's this nonprofit going to do that Seeds of Hope isn't doing, or that the LA Compost, or I mean, I'm sure there's some community garden network in LA that's already got set up with a 501c3 that you could just start community gardens under.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, other than just wanting to be directly plugged in with community and with people,
Mm-hmm. Are you going to be directly plugged into community with people if you're sitting in an office doing paperwork all day? Because that's what you're setting yourself up for.
I don't honestly. I don't. I mean, I know there's a lot to do, but I think through, for example, I found an amazing cohort. It's through Mockingbird Analytics here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually it's nationwide. It's even like international. I
Mm-hmm.
got people from all over the world or from all over the country um, in this course, and it's
Uh-huh.
just been the most amazing. Because I always think like, how can I do more with less time?
Uh-huh.
Because I was a single parent 50% of the time for like 4 years, like 3 kids, and so it was really difficult trying to run this farm with, even having the kids half time because they've got to go to school, you got to pack all their lunches, you
Uh-huh.
got to take them to their events. So I always think in terms of, I guess, working in tech has done that for me. How can I hack this process? How can I hack my time and have the most impact with the less amount of time?
Mm-hmm.
One thing this cohort, for example, has really been able to help me with is that it streamlines all that stuff. And so they take you through all the steps of starting a nonprofit and your board and all that crazy paperwork. You're pretty much getting it out of the way so that you
Mm-hmm.
can focus on what you love and what you do best, and so they really take that burden off of you through this
Mm-hmm.
cohort. And then you have your accountability partners and your classmates that you work together with. You're connecting, you're cultivating your nonprofits
Mm-hmm.
that um, um, they're kind of all working for different causes, but in the end it's the love of people. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I don't know, part of me feels like I'm gonna lay this foundation and architect this whole foundation so that we can leverage volunteers and people who love doing accounting, contracting, policy work, paperwork. They have a niche to do those things, can jump in as volunteers and help facilitate that, while the boots on the ground can have the shovels and do the digging and the
Yeah.
seed planting and the
Yeah.
cultivation.
I mean, I find there's
It's
not a
all
lot of
good.
people out there who love doing paperwork enough to volunteer to do it for free. You're probably going to end up paying somebody to do that, just like all of the other nonprofits are already
Yeah.
paying for somebody to do
Yeah.
that. And I guarantee you it's going to take a lot less time and work for somebody who's already sitting there in an office doing it all day to do it than
Then for
you or
me to
someone
learn.
else. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've already tried that route. It is yeah, it's I don't believe in trying to wear every single hat or being the person in charge and
Uh-huh.
stuff, but I do believe in like delegating and or team working on things that, being able to admit when I just don't have it. I can't learn this. It's not
Mhm.
something that
Right.
is going to be beneficial for me to learn this when I can be focusing on getting all our fall starts
Mhm.
planted,
Right. So why are you setting yourself up to be the person in charge of doing all that work?
because I think it's a pain point that's only temporary. It's temporary until just the ball gets rolling. We, you know,
Mhm.
get hopefully some some funding or
Mhm.
some grant where I can put more of my personal resources into it. I feel like it's just a temporary sacrifice until
Yeah.
we
I,
can get
I don't think that's true. I think it's an ongoing job that's going to be somebody's job. And unless you're going to fundraise enough money to hire somebody, which you're going to have to be really good at grant writing or fundraising in order to do, which is going to take a lot of time and work. And then you got to apply for more grants, and that's a full-time job. Like just keeping up with the paperwork, including grants. Grants are a huge amount of paperwork, both writing them, keeping up with them, tracking everything. You got to submit everything. Same is true with just 501c3 donations. You got to track it all. You got to submit it to the government. You got to do all the taxes for that. I mean, do you really want to be doing taxes for a 501c3 for the next 10 years, or paying somebody to do that when you could just be out in the garden not worrying about it?
Well, yes and no.
Uh-huh.
Yes and no. Yeah. I mean, I, I don't know. I feel like the nonprofit structure, I feel like it calls to me more. Like, it may not be as profitable or as easy, but everything is going back into the original cause versus a business where everything is really is more so profit driven. But to some extent, it has to be profit driven, right, to be regenerative and to continue. So yeah, I mean, it's a very contemplating question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned something there for a second um, about like owning a farm with a nonprofit. So I wonder if you wanted the nonprofit to own property, if that was a part of it. And I don't know how many other organizations are out there who do that sort of thing. Um, could you clarify what you were talking about there?
Hmm. Um, I don't. In terms of owning land, I mean, I think if the opportunity presented itself, yeah, that would be great, because then different things can, you can use the land for different things that, support the mission, the overall mission of the nonprofit. But I also, yeah, I mean, I'm not completely sold on owning land, because I see, there's an abundance of land out there, and there may even be, a lot of people who want to do land leases, or who want to donate land, temporarily for the purpose of community efforts. Um, so yeah, definitely some options there.
Okay, so I have some homework with you on uh, this point, which is to do more research on these other organizations, or if you can find like some organizations that are doing even more close to what you're doing, like who's doing the most close work to what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Find out exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it. Consider if there's something you want to do differently,
Mhm.
and then if you can even find out anything about like how many people they have involved, how many customers or participants they have or members, how what their income is, how much they're fundraising or making off of their operations, or any information about their profitability, like you could talk to somebody in the organization if they'd be willing to have a conversation with you and
Mhm.
gather information. And just gather the information so you can ask yourself this question, like, is there another organization out there that has a 501 that you could just partner with? And you wouldn't have to let go of your vision. You could still do things exactly the way you want to. You just wouldn't have to do all that paperwork
Mhm.
with the nonprofit. And then they could also maybe already have some grants or fundraising going on that you could use some of that, or just partnering with them more closely, or
Mhm.
just using them as a fiscal sponsor.
Mhm. Yeah, sure.
Because I mean, I talk to people like you all the time. I mean, I'm being a little harsh maybe, and there's somebody in the comments here being even a Scottish person. By request only is Scottish. That's his excuse. He's being he's being a little harsh. Just like, well, everybody wants to start their own thing. You know, like, why
Mhm.
why why does everybody got to start their own thing? We can't work together. We can't be collaborative. If you're going to be like, oh, everybody join me, everybody, why doesn't everybody want to work together? Because everybody wants to start their own thing. Like we can't all start our own thing. We can't all be the CEO of everything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really the role that you want? You could still be a leader, and I really appreciate you taking leadership and having this vision and wanting to see it through. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be a leader. It's just you don't necessarily have to be the leader of a 501c3 in order to be the leader of fulfilling this purpose.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's collaboration is huge. I don't think that the ultimate goal of ending food apartheid and ending wellness disparities, like it's a very, it's three words, but it's monumental, and it's not going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen with, a business model that's capitalistic in nature, because a lot of capitalism is very exploitive. It's going to take a different kind of model, a worker co-op model. It's going to take a nonprofit model, and it's going to really take everyone, working together. Which, yeah, I found even in the nonprofit world, where everyone is, we have hearts of gold, and we may have the same missions and stuff. It's hard to get people to work together. I mean, it's hard to get people to work together just within 3 mile radius. Everyone's got, we've got cause fatigue. There's so many different social issues and causes to get involved with that need to be addressed. Um, yeah, so teamwork, collaboration is it's a huge pillar, and I love the idea of offsetting a lot of the initial expensive administrative and grant writing and filing and all that stuff, by working with other organizations to, you get cross promotion. They get help with what they're doing, you get some help with what you're doing, and then you know I just don't see anything within an immediate radius of where I am in each of these locations where we're, working to set up regional chapters. Um, I don't see many organizations in the immediate vicinities that are making an impact. Because if the impact was being made, people wouldn't be starving. We'd see cancer and degenerative diseases and diabetes and heart disease. We'd be seeing those rates dropping. So by the numbers alone, that tells me we need more gardens. We need more people. We
I
need more
agree. We need more. It's just we don't need more administrative.
We don't need more bureaucracy.
Right, exactly. Creating your own is creating more bureaucracy. If there is an organization out there that already has the bureaucracy set up to do exactly what you're doing, then
Sure.
just you being,
Yeah.
locations of their network would be more efficient than creating your own that would compete with them. So this is
Right.
just something to look into. And it might be that nobody's doing exactly what you're doing. It might be that the only other community garden networks out there are not about regenerative. They're just, here's some chemicals, dump them on your garden. They might not have the same consciousness or the same values as you, in which case, totally. Let's start a different organization.
It's
Let's
just
do it.
not being done how I want it, how I would like
I
to see it done.
understand. I can be the same way. I totally get it. But you got to do the research to find
Yeah.
out if that's
Yeah.
true.
I,
There might be an organization also that's flexible enough to let you do things the way you want. And the way to grow this organically would be to work under an umbrella for a while,
get your feet wet. Yeah.
until you get it big enough that you actually need your own.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that idea.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
paperwork and yeah,
It's a
the
lot. It's a
it's
lot.
mundane and it's difficult, and yeah, it
Hmm.
takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, yeah. Just keeping up with it is a headache. Okay. So we're over a little over time, but I know you're usually pretty flexible. We got a couple questions left. Let's see if we can get through them. Okay, so yeah, your overall marketing strategy then. We were talking about your kind of minimum viable product would be having a website set up that you're going to drive people to. That would take them to a page where they could sign up to volunteer, sign up to be on your mailing list, um, and maybe a fundraising page as well. So to drive people there, what are some avenues that you would use? You talked about printing flyers, hanging them up locally, and handing them out.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to get out there with a shirt and a billboard, and hold it in traffic and be like, look, we can do better. We need to feed our kids healthy food, and we should have nutrient dense free food in every schools, and just have bullet points. And but yeah, it might not be the most effective,
I
but
mean, heck, go ahead. I mean, especially at your locations. Like if any of these garden locations were
massive traffic.
on a street. Yeah, totally. Gardening today. Stop now.
Yeah,
Don't be
yeah,
afraid to do that.
sure.
Garden,
I
totally,
just might. I mean,
totally.
once the technical aspect is there, that hey, go to this Instagram page. Bam, you go, you click on the link, you're in the website, and you understand clear, actionable items that you can take
Yeah.
to help your community and get involved today. Get in touch
Mm-hmm.
with us, work with us. Um, that is definitely,
Yeah.
I love PR in that regard because there's so many different avenues. I mean, reaching out to colleges with social justice programs and degree programs, and reaching out to colleges and
Mm-hmm.
restaurants and stuff, for example, and schools that have taken that initiative towards
Mm-hmm.
food justice, and just saying, hey, we're here. If we can help, let us know. um, and then also, I feel like I really want to have a paid webinar, or like a kind of like a master class. I don't particularly want to be on video presenting,
Mm-hmm.
but I've just done extensive knowledge in relation to food and regenerative health and things like that. And, so piecing it together so that someone else can present it, or that, maybe I can present a couple modules and can get some other people who are very knowledgeable to step in as well as guests. That's something that really appeals to me, is having a masterclass of sorts that offers an introduction. And then if the person wants to go even deeper, they can subscribe into a paid, um, program, mentorship, um, and then also offering scholarships for people who can't afford it, so that they can get that opportunity to, jump in and learn
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities
Mm-hmm.
behind, like,
Mm-hmm.
working in health, for example,
Yeah.
working in holistic health,
Yeah.
working in landscaping, and
Mm-hmm.
different regenerative business models that can be done here in the
Yeah.
city and wherever you are.
Okay, cool. Webinars, that sort of thing. You mentioned Instagram, and
Mhm.
I was when I was talking to my last clients, we were talking about them using Instagram. They have a beautiful property on Mount Shasta, and they have some really beautiful pictures. And I was like, yeah, that'd be perfect for you. And then I started thinking about you, and I'm like, oh, you need to take more pictures too. You need to take pictures of your garden.
Yeah.
Even if it's not beautiful and lush yet, like document the whole process. Document that empty lot. Put it
Mhm.
on Instagram and say, we are going to transform this. Like I think you could have a very active Instagram page, because what you're doing is pretty visual, even if it's not like perfect and beautiful yet.
Sure.
You could post images of the gardens, and then I could repost them on my Instagram.
Hmm. Sure. I love that idea. Thank you.
Cool. And then you're on Facebook, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So you could share events,
Hmm.
links, etc. The webinar, whatever.
Hmm. I don't see a lot of engagement on Facebook at all. Like, I still haven't figured it out. I'm actually pretty new to Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what I've noticed is, like, when you post things, you might get like 1 or 2 likes, versus Instagram, you're gonna get like 30 to 60 likes.
Yeah, it's weird. Facebook is
It's
their
a month.
algorithm is
Yeah.
yeah, it's especially I think if they recognize that you have a business,
Hmm.
I think they might even downgrade you a little because they want you to pay them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't like them, but at the same time, there's a lot of people on there, and using it at least a little bit, I think, is
Yeah.
useful because that's just where people are.
Mhm.
So,
Especially for groups, for organizing.
mhm,
It's pretty cool for that, because I don't know of many other tools where, you have that group feature.
mhm.
Um, yeah. And there's so many people already using it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to find an alternative to Facebook, just like I'd love to
Yeah.
find an alternative to Google.
It'll come, but it's not our
Yeah.
job. I'd say
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Okay. Do our viewers have any ideas for marketing strategies? Anybody? Think I can think of. Are there any other platforms you're on or anything? And then there's the mailing list, email,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Newsletter, email list.
Sure. Yeah. Mailing list is definitely something I need to learn about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And setting up I like how you do the Calendly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked before about having some sort of an app for volunteers that people could sign up for.
Mhm.
Did you look into that at all yet?
Um, like a website.
Like an app. I'm guessing there's probably some phone app out there that people can download. There's all of these various communication and collaboration apps.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's one specifically for like volunteer organizations where you can like schedule volunteer times and stuff like that and keep in communication. That might be worth looking into it versus having a newsletter or email list where, people can easily ignore it or it gets lost with all of the other emails. Like having your own separate app that people can log into might be on their phone,
That would be
especially.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet there's one that's like super cheap or free.
I've seen websites like Volunteers, something that was like one of the really popular ones, and or one of the two most popular for coordinating volunteers. They were actually a bit expensive for
Mm,
nonprofits, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, and but yeah, I I don't see a huge challenge with finding volunteers. It's just having that initial website and everything for them to tune into that,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. You
hopefully
want you
within
want to
like,
make sure you have that all set up.
yeah, I'm thinking 1 to 2 weeks,
Yeah.
it should be ready.
I mean, email list is fine to start with, and you can
Mhm.
get that set up quickly. So yeah, that's going to be a homework for you to figure out how to set that up quickly,
Mhm.
and then also looking at all these various methods, the Instagram, the Facebook, and coming up with a schedule of
Mhm.
like, are you going to post once a week, twice a week, every day, because it's easy to, I'm doing it right now. Like it's been 3 days since I've posted anything. You
Mhm.
get kind of busy and you forget. But if you had like a schedule, like, on these days, I'm going to make posts, so it just makes it easier. So
Mhm.
you can think about how often you want to do that. And then you can think about, okay, I'm going to go out to the garden on this day and take photos to
Mhm.
put on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. So, how will you deliver the information, online content, the experience of volunteering, any other services and products to your customers so that it is, in line with your organizational purpose, in line with your branding, in line with your values, and gives your customers a good experience and gives them everything they want. It alleviates their pains. It meets their desires. It makes them feel the way that you want to feel. And I want you to tell me this answer in the form of a story of a hypothetical community member who gets involved in the organization. Just think about what their experience might be like. Just walk me through a story of them getting involved and what happens throughout the process.
Mm. Um, well, I met someone yesterday during like a nonprofit group call, and he said to me, he said, "What you're doing really resonates with me." Um, and he told a little bit about his story, and his story was that he was diagnosed with arthritis, and he was, in a lot of pain, and all that the doctors could do for him was prescribe him medicines that he felt would be very toxic after doing the research. And from my knowledge, the typical standard of care for like arthritis, I think, is pills, pain pills, um, high dose steroids, or even a low dose chemo every quarter. I think that's like the standard of care in the Western medicine. And so I kind of knew exactly what he was talking about. Um, he told me that he began researching natural methods, and he changed his diet. And in particular, he found that gluten, as well as some other things, I think, were causing this inflammation like around his joints and stuff. And so when you ask me for a story, I envision someone just like that, because in the communities where I'd like to see this really flourish, these are communities that are more disproportionately affected by all of these top killers, like the cancer, the diabetes, the rheumatoid arthritis, degenerative diseases, and heart disease. They're all largely preventable, reversible, and really shouldn't exist. So I envision people like that, who are experiencing maybe symptoms, and they've gone to doctors, and the doctors have told them that they're okay, but they still feel sick. Or, people who they really want to eat better, but it's just so expensive to have an organic diet to the extent where you can juice and blend every morning. And so and we have had volunteers just like this on the farm in Oregon. We had someone, for example, who would come and get involved. She lived 40 miles away, but she'd drive to the farm to pick up her food and her CBD. We were doing CBD hemp back then, which we were doing salves and lotions and things. And people were actually getting relief from this pain, especially this lady. She suffered from epilepsy most of her life, and she used it whenever she'd sort of feel the symptoms coming up. So I just saw I've seen people's lives improved by getting involved with community, getting involved with a purpose, growing good food, getting that exercise, getting the sunshine and the fresh air, and then having that harvest, eating together, eating healthier.
Okay, so
and
we
it
can
just,
we
yeah.
get back to? I mean, you're saying things generally now. So getting back to this guy in particular that you talked to about the gluten issue. So let's just use him as an example. Now, maybe he hasn't gotten involved yet, but let's just hypothetically imagine him getting involved. I mean, maybe he didn't live there, but if he did, what would it look like if he did get involved from there?
Well, yeah, it would be just like the lady that I'm telling you about. She got involved, and she felt better, just inwardly. She felt better, and it's it was a stress reduction. It was community connection, and inspired her to have better health practices just because of having a closer connection with her food. And so, yeah, I envision, for a lot of people, it could be a very similar outcome. And one thing, this gentleman he's based in Los Angeles. So we're actually thinking about how we can sort of do some things together with our nonprofits, because they're different, but then they have many similarities at the same time. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I mean, how would you imagine him being involved specifically?
Well, he's offered to help with, he's gone through the 501c3 process, and we're not quite there yet in the cohort, but he's offered to assist with anything that we need administratively, actually. Any kind of help or connections in forming the board. And so, in exchange, I was thinking of inviting him over to see the farm or the garden, and to see sort of the overall vision, to have some seeds and get maybe like a brief introduction on how to start seeds and how to get them growing, and just get that information, and maybe even chip in a little labor. I don't know, but yeah, taste some fresh food, some make some salsa or something from everything that's growing right now. And a lot of people have never tasted fresh fresh anything. One friend was telling me yesterday, she's a 40-year-old software developer, and she's from the Philippines. She was telling me, I don't remember picking fresh food, fruit, vegetables, whatever, since living in the Philippines when I was younger. Like, in industrialized countries, heavily industrialized, we kind of have that, all the same food systems, where people are just, there's such a disconnect.
Okay. how would you support him in helping out with the administrative work in the garden that would be regenerative?
Well, um, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. How would I
Like,
say?
you're going like into a lot of hypothetical and stuff, and I want a story. I want like really specific details of exactly how you interact with this guy. Like what do you give him? What do you provide him with? How do you communicate with him? Is it over email? Are you um, thanking him? Are you giving him recognition? Are
Oh
you
yeah.
like how is he involved, and what does that look like, and how does that whole process fulfill your vision and values?
Mm.
But not in
Well,
a hypothetical way, like in a real way.
yeah. Well, I think as with as all volunteers, as a whole, people want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel respected. They want to be, they should be honored, especially when they're taking such a critical investment, such as time and pouring it into, you know, um, this cause.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely finding ways to reward people and to let them know that they're appreciated and to offer something in return.
Mm-hmm.
That would be that's pretty big to me. I've actually had even two people just sort of come through the woofing program and message me and say, "Hey, um, uh, even though you're not taking people, full time right now to live in and work on the farm, is there anything I can do from across the country to help, uh, digitally, anything?" And I don't even know really what to sort of give them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've definitely expressed like tremendous appreciation and kept them in the loop about here's what we're doing, here's what we're working on, and here's where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, what I'm as you're talking, I mean, it's giving me ideas. So I'm thinking about this guy, and he's got a story to tell. So I mean, he might be really private and not want to, but since he told you his story, he might be interested in telling his story, to help with your marketing, and that
Hmm.
might give him some recognition, for him helping out with this, to have him interviewed.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and he said it when he said it. It was actually publicly. He
Oh,
said,
okay.
I really like what you just shared, and I just felt like I was just yes, somebody who understands. Like this is a real story of somebody who was sick, and all they could give him was two options of these pills for the rest of his life, and he took a corrective action, and changed his diet, and is living proof that you can't argue with experience, and I still, hearing his health journey, just a little bit that I heard, there's still certain tests that he can take that would reveal a tremendous amount of information that I could help him interpret those tests, so I could definitely give back.
Oh yeah.
Um, but we go back to that. Is it affordable for him? Health, we've kind of reached this tipping point where being healthy, especially reversing symptoms or reversing disease, um, it's become very expensive, because even just to do the tests that you need to have the insight into, for example, your gut microbiome, those tests can be expensive, between, I don't know, 260 to 3 360, something like that. But it gives you a wealth of information that you can then take corrective action on, and that most doctors, they're never going to run that test
Mm-hmm.
on you,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's definitely a lot to offer, as far as what tests people can take, how to interpret these tests, what to do, from based on the interpretations,
Mm-hmm.
which herbs and supplements and what kind of diet to be on. Um, so in the future, that's really what I envision, is having a system in place that provides these resources to people who are contributing to the cause, so that they can, get something out of it and feel rewarded and valued as well. So like health coaching or garden coaching or consulting or something of that nature. cross promotion, symbiosis.
And then doing some cross promotion with his organization, maybe giving him information. He'd get on the mailing list and get information about your holistic healthcare, gardening and food education.
Testimonials are so powerful.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's more specific. That's what I wanted. Yay, cool. And we're at 2:00, so we've been
really
going for an
pulled it
hour
out
and a
of
half.
it.
I know.
I appreciate that. It's some critical thinking.
Yeah.
Get hot.
Totally. Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think we're at the end of today's session. So next time we'll be talking about profitability. We talk about money stuff, and we can get more into your fundraising. So yeah, between now and then, I think the main thing, I mean, I have some questions here and I'll email you the like homework that I mentioned, the things that you can look up. But I think more than just doing like market research, to find a platform to do some fundraising on, figure out how much fundraising you want to do in the short term, getting set up to that so that next time we can really talk about how you're going to do that. I mean, you don't have to figure out the exact numbers because we'll be talking about numbers next time, but if you could just start thinking about it, and that's what we'll talk about next time. And I'll also go ahead and take the answers that you gave me today and put them into the business model canvas that I think I've already shared with you, and I have been filling that in as we're going. And then when that's done, you'll have this, like, it's a 7-page document that'll just have bullet points of all of the aspects of the organization that we have talked about. And, that's a living document. Unlike a typical, 30-page narrative business plan, which people often come up with, you don't want to go back and rewrite that over and over again. But with a business model canvas, you can go in and like change those bullet points really easily. So if you change your plan, you go back, and in fact, you want to use that as a tool to, refer to consistently of, are we following our plan? And if we're not, then either we need to change what you're doing or we need to change the plan. Like it's a living document that can evolve with your organization and be a tool to communicate to you and everyone else on the team what it is you're doing. Right. And you can also use it as a diagnostic tool to, like, is this working? Like, kind of question each thing, and you can conduct tests on whether, is this really our value proposition? Can we test if we need to tweak it a little bit? But we'll talk about that more later. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So awesome. Thank you. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.